I'm Lucinda Ohlson, I'm director of The Long Quiet.
My name is Siphokazi Jonas, and I am part of The People of the Sun, which is the first short film, and I'm co-writer and cast.
Nice. So what was the inspiration behind both of your film? What made you want to essentially pick up the camera to film this?
Well, I didn't actually pick up a camera, but one was pointed at me. It was part of a conservation project of a woman in South Africa, Ouma Katrina, who's the last living fluent speaker of the oldest language on the continent, Noom, which is 25,000-year-old language. And she's working to try and, she's over 90, and she's been working to preserve this language and be able to teach it to her community and make sure it doesn't die out. Unfortunately, if we ever to lose her. So part of our work was to try and preserve having her tell the story in Noom, and for us to talk a bit more about why it's really important to look after indigenous communities.
I was living in Argentina and had come across Hugh. We became friends, and I guess, like, thinking back on it now, I probably was on a bit of my own journey of self-discovery in a way as well, being out there. His story always really resonated with me. And he used to always go off on these tangents when we were out on nights out, and how he'd slept on the side of the road and been travelling for years on a horseback, and I just found it really fascinating. And the idea for it came about on the rooftops of Buenos Aires at sunrise one night after we'd had a particularly big night out on his stag do actually before he got married. And I just said to him we should make a film about this. I'd kind of been looking for something to make a film about, thinking that I'd make maybe some short things or some promotional material for businesses or some little short films, and it just ended up being this discussion at sunrise that we were like, let's make this feature-length film. And then we had a sober chat about it a few days later, and decided to put the wheels in motion and go off. And he'd already set up his company by then, so he was very involved in organising the trip up north and going up and getting the horse and everything again. So we just kind of set off, and I didn't really know what I was doing when I first started the film. I started off by gathering interviews from his friends and family, didn't really know how I was going to tell the story, and then it's taken a long time to put it together. But I think his story just always really resonated with me. There's probably like parts of me and how I've told the story as well. So yeah, just being away and wanting to make something and just finding his story really fascinating.
I think I really do want to ask, is there anything that you learned in yourself along the way of making both your films? Anything that you picked up about yourself that you learned?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's thinking about the impact that present decisions have on the past, because this community was marginalized because of colonization and apartheid, and their language was stripped for them, and they had to learn Afrikaans. They would be beaten for actually speaking their mother tongue, to the point that it died out and very few people would actually speak it. And so this feels like something, and then they were pushed into the Kalahari Desert, so moved from their ancestral lands. So it's something that feels very far removed from my daily life, sort of moving through the city and so on. But in a conversation with Ouma Katrina, for example, we learned that even in my mother tongue is Xhosa, we have 3 clicks in our language, and 3 of those are actually from her language. So they have 5 clicks, we have 3, and it was because of historical, connection, intermarriage, war even. And so learning that if this language that has 5 clicks were to die out, it even connects to how I would lose part of my own heritage in my own language. So something that felt historical and far removed, and something that we can just look at in history books and so on, it doesn't seem to matter, really, really matters, even in the way in which I move through the world and who I understand myself to be, really has this extensive history. So I think what's really exciting for us as the team on this project is a way of reminding all of us to look at where we come from, but how we got to where we are now, and who's had to be displaced for us to get there. And so what are the kind of efforts that we can make in supporting and ensuring that we don't lose that past, because it actually is part of who we all are in some capacity or another.
I think just making it, I wanted to make something that would sort of resonate with everyone, and I think working on it just made me realise the struggles that I've had in my own life, and just that everyone has struggles they go through in life. And I think that was the overall sort of message that I wanted to get across with it, I suppose, was and that Hugh says it so beautifully in the film, that you've just got to pick yourself up and keep going, and also remember to like stop and look back down from where you've come from and how far you've come. I think it's as I say, we all go through our own struggles, and it's just about how you overcome them.
Yeah. Was there any challenges that you had along the way?
I mean, shooting in the desert. It's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. So having a long shoot and then trying to survive the heat. But it is, there's a strange thing sometimes about making any kind of art where if you're trying to make an impact where you feel so almost powerless because you think there's this massive intention, but how does one short film or a documentary actually speak to a much larger social issue? So there was sometimes, that feeling of, is what we're doing going to have an impact? But I think even being here allows us to extend the conversation and hopefully think about collaboration and how other stories are being told and how it might open someone else to go look at their indigenous community and their history. So it does feel empowering in that way. And also just, the desire to make a long form project and,
Yeah.
So but I think it had such an incredible team that came together to make it, and so many people were passionate about us putting this together. So whatever the challenges, you still have that optimism about the importance of what we do.
Yeah, I think I would say definitely, like you said, trying to keep that optimism. I definitely went through periods where I was like, I can't do this. I'm just gonna like suck it all off, because it was such a huge project. I think I was a bit over optimistic maybe when I started it, because I shot a lot of it myself. I produced it, directed it, edited it. Didn't have any budget, and so it was just not having any money was the biggest challenge. But then also I think just when I came to the post-production stage of it, just thinking, how the hell am I going to put this together now? Because there were so many threads to the story, and there were so many different elements to it, and how to weave it all together. And because it was obviously he'd already done the original journey and we went back on a new journey, it was kind of how to blend the past and the present together. And then it was mainly just time and money, and just doing it on my own was just ridiculous, really.
If I'm correct, it's up for 2 awards.
Just one, I think, but it's nominated for Best Feature. No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
If you had 10 times the budget, this is a question you want us to ask, would there be anything different about the film? Would you do anything differently?
I don't know. Like, I think I probably would have had more crew, and then I probably would have had way more staff during post-production. I think that would have massively helped taken off some of the weight, because it was just, I was trying to do everything myself. And I think, like I say, there were periods of time where I just had to have a break from it, and I was just like, I can't do it, it's just too much. I'd have to go away and do another project, earn some money, and then take time off to work on it again. I think just having more people's input and having more of a team behind me. I definitely had some amazing people that worked in it. My music composer Nikki, who couldn't make it tonight, he composed all the music for free for me. And David, who did quite a few of the interviews, I've known him for the industry for years, and he just agreed to come, and he drove all around the island with me and helped me shoot some of those interviews, and then came to France with me to shoot the founder of the Long Riders Guild. And he's been brilliant. So I think I was really lucky in that sense. But I think just having more money would have just meant having a few extra crew members, more post-production team. I probably could have hopefully got it done a lot quicker than I did, because I think it ended up taking a lot longer. And if I had like a massive budget, I'd love to make it into a scripted film, like with actors. I think it would be amazing as a screenplay. Yeah.
The best person to answer is probably my EP. Honest, so there's two answers. The one would be, to make a feature length project, and I mean, all of the people on the film had incredibly interesting stories, from Ouma, the medicine man, Elvis the hunter, who sort of took me, through and showed how he hunts and how he makes the bows and the arrows and so on. But if I really did have more money now, Ouma Katrina has actually started a school in her backyard to teach the children of the community this language, and they're trying to raise funds to actually keep the school going. So, capesecrets.com, if you'd like to donate to that fundraising effort, we'd probably contribute to that effort, so that it's really more important to see that happening, just as much as it is to make the work.
Was there a moment in any of the other films that you enjoyed in the Strand?
I enjoyed all of them. I thought they were all really captivating. Yeah.
It was surprising to actually see this thread of poetry as well.
Yeah.
Through which
Yeah.
as a poet, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
So that was really, really beautiful.
Yeah, and just thinking about Hugh's story, I suppose the third one sort of really resonated. Just watching him as a little boy, I thought that's probably, you know, similar things to what Hugh went through as well. Yeah.
And how the book tied in together with everything.
Oh yeah.
And how it kind of reappeared. I really love that.
Intentional. I'm going to throw it out to the audience. If anyone else has any other questions that they want to ask.
So, I guess as you said, you didn't have any script and you shot all these things. How do you put this all together? Imagine it must be very overwhelming. Like, oh, I have all these scripts, all this movie. Where do you even start?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was really hard. I think, yeah, but especially I think with a documentary as well, there's so many different ways to tell it. And there's whole interviews that I haven't used and whole like different scenes that I had to get rid of. I spent a lot of time just doing spider diagrams and kind of, just trying to work out different scenes and how I was going to piece it all together. I had a lot of that going on, a lot of scribbling stuff down and like waking up in the middle of the night and writing notes on my phone and things like that, and suddenly just thinking of things. And I transcribed all of the interviews myself, which just seems crazy now because you can do it with AI now, but back then you couldn't. And I think that actually really helped because I had it all in my head, even though it took hours of time. I think I had it all in my head, and then gradually I sort of started working in it, like doing the post-production editing. I just started doing it scene by scene and then just thought about how I could, you know, weave each scene together. But yeah, it took a long time to kind of get it into that state. And there were moments where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. And then we went into lockdown, and although I had lots of time on my hands, I was also stressed about not having any money because I'm freelance. And then I couldn't shoot anything else. And I got to this point where I was editing it, and I hadn't actually shot the interview with Cucullin O'Reilly, who was the founder of the Long Riders Guild. And I suddenly got to this point in the film where I think I'd edited about half an hour of it, and I was like, there's just something missing here, like I need something else. And I suddenly just thought I need to go and interview him. That was like the missing thing. I had to wait until we could fly again because he was living in France. And actually once I'd gone and interviewed him, that was what kind of brought it all together. And then I was like, right, this is how I'm going to weave it together. Obviously the book was like a key part of it as well. But yeah, then once I'd done his interview, that was like, right, I kind of got it in my head then, and then I managed to, get it sort of scene by scene and work out how to sort of, weave them together so that it flowed as a narrative.
Can I pass that question on?
It was 6 minutes. I don't think it took me as long to put together.
Is there any more questions or comments?
I've got a question for Siphokazi. So the film is exquisitely shot. All the ingredients are really lovely. Your poem's really lovely. The cinematography is great. The music is beautiful. But it's delivered like a little hors d'oeuvre. And I'm just wondering whether there's going to be a main course, because it could be so much bigger and so much more beautiful.
Oh yes, absolutely. That's the desire. That's the hope that we'll be able to make, because the story is a lot more than what is shown on screen, and there is a lot of experimentation again around documentary narrative as well as poetry, and weaving this thread of storytelling across multiple generations and pre-colonial history as well. So there's so much to tell that if you're excited to be part of the story, to find out more, please really do check out the People of the Sun or capesecrets.com and follow our journey there. Or if you have a really rich aunt who's looking to invest.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Also, I asked the question, but I just want to say congratulations to both of you. It's like so challenging to like produce these movies. So it was amazing. Like really enjoyed. What was your favorite, I guess, scene or bit of each of your movies?
I just love the scene of yours just standing there with the desert, with the sand beneath you. Yeah, I just thought it was amazing when that first shot came in. Yeah, I thought it was beautifully shot.
For me, there was this moment when I forget his name, Epic Mustache.
Oh yeah,
right. So when he actually explains what the long quiet is, and that is going to sit with me. I felt like I was in that moment. It was very, very powerful. And I think a lot of what he actually says, what Hugh says, is significant for other, trying to figure out challenges in your own life. Really had a lot of gems, but that moment for me was just, it tied it all together beautifully. Yeah. I'll be thinking about it quite a bit as well.
I think I'm going to end with what's next.
A long flight back to South Africa, actually. To go home. But yeah, I mean, I think really just exploring more of how to turn this project into the dream project. That I think everyone has that ultimate vision of seeing how we can possibly, and just like pray. Ouma Katrina is about 93 years old. To really sort of keep that connection with her for as long as we have this repository of knowledge available to us. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, guys. I think that's all we have time for today. I'm so sorry. Thank you guys for all sticking along, and thank you too for coming as well. Thank you.